Okay. I had a great weekend. I went to Mexico City. I've never been. It was a ton of fun. It was my friend's 40th birthday. So there were 24 of us, and it was pretty much a wedding. She had so much, like, so many things planned. It was awesome, and we went without the kids. So it was a great weekend. How about you guys?
Oh, that's so awesome.
My daughter got married on Sunday.
Okay, you
Oh my
know
So,
better than
goodness.
me.
so I've been missing for a long time because all I've been doing is baking and florals and all the stuff.
Amazing. So how was it?
It was lovely.
Yeah.
Little, a little bit of work. I'm decompressing today.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the shower and everything was so close to the wedding.
Oh my
I guess
gosh.
I was thinking the wedding was later, but I think you probably did say that it was Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, it was like they were only a month apart. So it was like I went from one to the next. And yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lot.
But now are you like depressed that it's all over?
No. My house looks like a wedding bomb went off.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have to regroup and get
Yeah.
back to my balloons.
Yeah.
oh, that's so fun though. Congratulations to your
Thank you.
family. We attended a wedding on Sunday. It was a great night for one. So, what a beautiful day.
Nice. Yes.
Okay, well, let's get this thing rolling. I think people are still trickling in. I am really looking forward to today's session because we're doing kind of a double whammy. So, first, Alyssa's going to build an air-filled bouquet with us. Um, I sell these, but I always have this anxiety that like hi Popo. Popo on mute. Um,
Thanks.
I always have this anxiety that it's going to tip over, or if the client moves it, the weights, if it's outside, are going to like break the structure from the bottom. And, am I really delivering on the value that they expect? Because we charge quite a bit for these. One, because we have to buy all these backup foils, and like there's just so many things that can go wrong with these. So I asked her to do a session on this of how to like jazz up these bouquets. So I'm really, really looking forward to hearing it from the expert. I've never taken a class for this, and so it's just been like trial and error. So I'm actually like really excited to learn how you're supposed to build these things. And then for the second half, we're going to do a networking session. So I know you guys really enjoyed that last time, meeting and connecting with people within the group. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of each other on Tuesdays. And so it's nice to just be able to build relationships with the people that are involved in the group. So I will immediately turn it over to Alissa to not waste any time. Alissa, are you ready for us?
I'm ready. I had to, how did I made a mistake? Just fixed it. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa. I am with NWI Party and Party Lane. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so I know that Alexis, that you were talking about some of the anxiety that you have with it. So I'm going to talk a lot about like how I do things to try to get that security outdoors, and some of it. Don't you love when you get a water balloon that pops? And now I have, water on my glasses. But and just the way that we do weight things, if it's indoors, if it's outdoors, the additional support that we give them, because I know that we've talked about our wind in this area, but we have crazy wind. So I may even do things a little bit differently than other people do in the area. Um, and even though this isn't air filled, I do always add, depending upon the design, like this one, I am going to add a tiny bit of helium, and I'll show you why, but you can do it completely as an air fill, but I'm doing a double decker structure. And for one of those, I tend to use a little bit of helium just because I feel like it gives it that extra little bit of lift so it's not going to tip. Okay, does anybody have any questions like before I get started about things that they want to see or address? No?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
like for waiting these outside, because I
Yeah.
will attach weight to the bottom, like
Mm-hmm.
connected balloon structure, like the main structure under there. And I'm always worried
Yeah.
that people are gonna like lift it from the top, lift it weird. And I'm like go over explaining to them. And it'd be nice to just be like, here you go. There's not gonna
You need
be,
to grab it from the pole. Yeah.
yeah.
And if we're doing outdoors, I'm going to show you, I don't just weight the bottom. I actually use tall poles and tape it to the tall poles all the way up. So, and if it ends up being a shorter structure, then I'll use like one of the lamp bases and just cut it off partway, or I'll use conduit for that. So I'm going to show it how to build it both without and with. I know that we have all have our own recipes. I'm going to do one that's grad just because we are in the midst of grad parties still here. Okay, so first we use 12-inch balloons for our outside ones, and I always size them down to 8 inches for our outer row, and we do these as a square pack. Usually if it's going to be indoor or if it's winters, I will use a 5-inch, size to 5 inches in the center. But during the summer months, since things are warmer, I do use 9-inch balloons for the interior that are also still sized down to 5. So, but my trick for what I do for these, if they don't tip and so that I don't have to add a weight, is that I actually have and this one I accidentally tied off, but it's double stuffed so that I have a 5-inch balloon that is a water balloon on the inside.
Okay.
So then what I'm going to do is fill it. It never fills to the same measurement just because there's a little bit of pressure. So I do use my sizer then to go down to the 5 inches. And I tie one of these into each of my quads because what that does is it's just going to make it not tip over.
Okay, I feel like a total idiot. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, so all of these have just one in the center. And then the thing that you have to be careful about is that you're going to make sure that it's going to be on the bottom. The other thing that I do, and I don't have my cutter with me, is if I'm going to be outdoors or if they're going to be picking up, is I actually use a dowel rod in the middle and I build it on a pole so that it's not going to lose its shape.
Okay.
And I just picked those up at Home Depot. So this is my bottom. So find my one that bottom. And I do prefer with numbers to use 26-inch, but I am using 30-inch today. And I think everybody knows how to do this. You're just nestling it in between and then flip-flopping around the pole if somebody doesn't. And again, I'm keeping my water balloon on that side. Oops. Pushed it too low, pushed it right off the pole. I'm going to move it to the floor just so I can reach. Water balloon. Have any of you ever done the pool floaters?
Like pool balloons?
Like the ones that, yeah, the pool balloons. So when I do these as a pool balloon, this is actually exactly how I weight it. And then I toss like one pool balloon, or then I toss one weight into the bottom and it's going to stay. And this extra weight is also, it's going to be keeping it upright. I'm going to add one more of these. So again, I measure out to 8. And I don't know how many of you have a twin sizer, but if you do a twin sizer, that's like right at about 3.0. And we measure it with it rounded. We don't measure it when it's flat. So usually what I would do is right here is I'm going to cut this rod. And you can see that this end has every single one of them has a water weight. So now it's just going to be a lot more weighted and stand still really well. So that's kind of my trick on that part. Okay. So the next thing, because I'm going to be showing how I do it to go outdoors, is I did pre-fill, and these are air filled. What I do, is I tape off my tops with a piece of tape that goes up and down, and then I use my hole punch, and I'll be showing this on the last one, that goes inside. And then I also do that on the bottom. I left one. So I always like to use a clear tape. And I go slightly over the edge of it. Then I just bend it and I go on. So I do this for a couple of reasons. The first is that I like to use the hang tabs instead of my valve, because if it's going to be outdoors, then I don't tend to fully inflate it if it's a hot day. And then it also allows, if I'm there, I could bring my straw with me. Say that we end up being too inflated, and if it's in direct sunlight, and I'll slide my straw into the valve so that way it can lose air so that it's not going to pop when it's on site if we do have too much. If
Okay,
you
quick
do,
question.
yeah,
What's your balloon machine model?
I have no idea. This is the Twin Air Sizer 2.
Twin
Yeah,
air
it was.
sizer. Okay.
So then I take my hole punch.
And what
and I
was
have one of these.
what was this clear tape that you're using?
My preference is the crystal clear Gorilla brand crystal clear duct tape, but I'm currently out of it. So this is clear gaffer's tape, so
Okay.
which is nice. This one is reinforced, so it does really well. I also have adhesive allergies, so those are really the only two tapes that I could use. Sometimes duct tape leaves a film on my hand, so I do okay with gaffer's tape though. If you are going to be adding it from your valve, which I only do if it's indoors, but I prefer to have 2 attachment points. I don't know about you guys, but then it's like less likely to twist around. Just make sure, I will show. I put it in, and then I roll my valve. I do this for any balloons that are, any foils that are outdoors, even if it's on ribbon, because then what that does is it just prevents it from being able to slide off if there's a lot of wind. Okay. Then I use 260s or 350, whatever I have, and cut that. And I just feed it through the hole. I feel like all of my scissors need to be sharpened right now. They're also dull. So now I have 2 attachment points, and that's just going to keep it from twisting. Maybe I need to move my camera back too. I feel like it might be like one of those things where it's both too close and too far.
You're front and center for me.
Now we're about to get tall. Okay, so it's 25. And I'm just going to take my 260 and I go around the dowel rod, not to the balloons,
Okay.
just because it's a little bit more secure for me.
Now with those short 260s, it's not going to apply too much pressure to those 12 inches.
I mean, it's half, so it's, well, first I'm not going on to the 12 inches, I'm going on to the dowel rod.
Right, but it's pressing between them. So it's
Yeah, I like to have a little bit of pressure. I don't want it to be loose, because if it's really loose, then it's going to wiggle around. See, I think that it's exactly where it belongs. It's not pushing down, but it is in between them. So now we're going to do the same thing for our 2. And I already applied 260s.
And Christy's asking, when you're not using the dowel rod, do you take those 2 6s and wrap them around the 12 inches or what do you do differently?
Okay, so what I do then is I use a 350 to go in between, and I string that as a figure 8 between each of my balloons, and then tie it. I tie it to my figure 8. I tie it to the 350. I don't ever tie it into the balloons because if you do tie it, I find that when I tie it into the balloons, what it does is it causes one of them to like squish and go sideways or pull up. So whereas if I do it onto the 350, since that's really tight and taut, it just works as a stronger line. So then we're going to be a little bit better and it's not going to pull it out of shape as easily. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So if I had something like this would actually make like a pool floater where it's going to go in and it's going to stay up and it's not really going to tip. And then what I would do is I would take a like a brick and I would cover that in table cover and I would tie that to the center and then just drop it into the pool and that's going to kind of anchor it so that it doesn't blow into the sides and those look really pretty. The one last thing that I like to do is I do use a U-glue adhesive strip whenever I have two that are next to each other. And I use the strip more than the dashes just because it's a bigger anchor point. But I am going to cut it in half because I'm cheap and they're expensive. I mean, seriously, these things are like gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to take that strip and I look at where the balloons are touching. And for me, they're touching right here. I'm going to put my finger there and I'm going to press it down. It does need to be warm. If it's not warm enough, then, stick it in your pocket or stick it in your bra if you have one. And then just push it and hold them together. Well, I saw Edgar was here. I don't know if it's Edgar I know or if it's a different Edgar. Okay. So now these two are going to stay really secure together. See how they don't pull apart pretty much at all instantly. Okay. So that is that part. Then how I'm going to do the top, just because it's a double decker, is if it's a single row or if it's just 18-inch or something that are going onto the bottom, then you're fine with it all being air filled. If you're going to do it where you have layers or a 36-inch on top, then I feel like you do need more support, even if you're going to be using external support. So what I do is I do a partial helium fill. And I fill it just to my lift point. Like right now I added a little bit of helium, but it's not lifting. So see how now it's like still not lifting, but what that does is it just makes it so that it stands up on its own. But I also don't have to worry as much about it floating away from me because it's not super heavy or super light rather. And then I'm going to fill it the rest of the way.
Nope, the camera for me
That's
just
me.
went off.
I know. Sorry, that's my turn that off. Hold on a second. I apologize.
And this is the secret part where she doesn't show us how the helium. I'm just kidding. Oh. How many of you do these often? Never? Okay, I get the request for these a lot, but I'm always worried about things going wrong. And we charge a premium because they are kind of difficult to,
I've
they're
only
difficult
done
to
a couple,
do. Yeah,
mainly for family.
yeah. But when people want like a more approachable price point for an event, you can definitely recommend this. And then it's like, they can pick it up. It's not this like full day, so you can give them a better deal.
But when they pick it up, oh dear, the things that they do.
Right. Well, that's why we're like, okay, because I was worried about them picking it up from the bottom or picking it up from the top. And so
They
Alyssa,
shove it
you're
in their car.
right.
Yes, sorry about that.
Alyssa, your
Um,
camera is flipped vertical. Can you,
oh,
or is it,
yeah, it's the issue that I was having before. Let me try to. Oh, is it fine now? See, it's looking fine to me. No?
I'm seeing it vertical. Oh, there we
Is
go.
that better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what I did is I just filled it with helium to the lift point, and then I fill it the rest of the way with air. And again, I'm going to take it all off. And then on this row, I wouldn't do it here, but when I got there, I would leave my valve down and I would bring my straw. And then when I'm finished up, I'm going to tape up my valve. But for the purposes here, I will tape my valve up. I feel like having valves up and like the little hang tabs cut off makes it all just a little bit more elevated, so it looks more professional. So one of the things that I sometimes run into when I do it as a double is that you notice that our hang tabs, like here's where my 5 is, and here's where my 0 is, that it's not lined up. And I don't like to stretch it. I sometimes use a 260 for this, but a lot of times I also just do fishing line because I feel like it's clear, so it's going to look a little bit better. Thought I had it out. I don't know where I put it. I'll use this. So I'm going to do tie a piece of fishing line in between. Have any of you ever had the fishing line slide straight off?
I
So
have not
the,
used fishing line on this.
so the
Yeah, I feel
second
like I have to
time,
nut it like 1,000 times because I'm like, is it gonna just undo itself?
so when I use fishing line, I go through once the first time, and then you go through once and then go around twice the second time, because then that locks it into space. It's not going to pull off.
And I mean, is there a way to do this whole setup, this double decker setup that you're doing without helium?
Mhm. Yeah. So, but outdoors, I would definitely use either a pole or a piece of conduit up the back, which if I'm outdoors, I always secure it onto a pole or a piece of conduit just because we have a lot of wind. So if not, then what I would do is just do the single level. Oops. And I'm going to do this one on the line. I'm going to do this side on my hang tab. And then I'll add some decor elements to the other side. And then I take my piece of U glue and I'm going to put a piece of U glue right here again. So if you have ones where where it's not sticking as well, you could also use like a hand sanitizer or an alcohol wipe to take off some of the paint, and that will fix that too. Okay. Now we have that up. And this one's hiding under my table, so I didn't lose it. Again, even though they're the same number, put on this one first. I'm going to take this one off the tab just because the O and the 2 are different shapes. I don't like how it's sitting. So now I could find where it should be. More right there.
Excuse me.
Okay, so now that's attached. And I like to attach it here.
See, this is so much more work than a garland.
So much more work.
How much more work?
And everyone's like, it's just balloons. It's so small. Is it like $50?
How long does this typically take you or someone from your team? And what is the price range for something like this?
The double ones we sell for $250. We don't tend to sell a lot. We sell some of them for graduations, but we mostly sell these for New Year's Eve, to be honest. So
Okay.
because for graduation, they'll a lot of times just get the 25 and then they'll get the other things and then they're doing a garland or a photo backdrop. But for New Year's Eve, they like to be like the 2025. So, but we do them, just not as often. We sell them more for New Year's. Like for New Year's, what I actually like to do is do them for New Year's because then I could show that as a picture to start to sell it for a grad a little bit earlier. So, and just tell them that we could do some grad tweaks for it. Okay. So now we have our basic structure. So what this is going to look like. So some other things that I would add in is I would use like either a graduation or a class of 2025 balloon.
Mhm.
For this one, I was thinking it would be cute to do the starburst. Do I need to move back? Or do you want
No,
me?
for working on the bottom row, no, you're good.
Actually, what I'm going to show you next is I'm going to show you how I secure it to the poles because I feel like we'll get into embellishments, but everybody knows how to embellish, right? Like we're all smart people. So I think that time-wise. So there's 2 different ways that I do this. These are heavy bases that I'm going to be using if they're outdoors. So you could also do it where sometimes if you're able to go straight into the ground, then you could go straight into the ground for it too. And then I always get a Julie call so that you're not responsible if you mess up their wiring, but you could go in with a piece of rebar and then you could use 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch conduit and you could slide it over it as well. What? And if it's just one level, then you're going to use one of those short like Walmart lamp bases. But if it's 2 levels, then I'm going to use a tall base like this. What I want to do is line up my base so that we're going to see as little as possible about it. And then I just slide it in. So I slide it in on both sides and I push it up directly against my pole. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay. So then I'm going to take a 260 and I'm going to flash it against the pole, going around the center part, and just by doing a figure 8 around it and then tying that off on both parts on the bottom. So I'm not going to show that because you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing. But I do that instead of wrapping it around it because wrapping it around is going to mess it up again. And then we're going to go back to our friend tape. For this one, I am going to use a colored duct tape just so that way you could see what I'm doing a little bit better than using the clear.
Okay. And so where are these black bases from?
They're just lamps. They're just a heavier lamp base that I've gotten. I actually picked these up at Goodwill.
Is this the,
So
you got like 60 of these?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but I use the regular lamp ones more. What I'll do if it's going to be going outdoors then is I'll get a 10-pound dumbbell, and I have a whole bunch of 10-pound dumbbells that fit over the top, and that's just as heavy as this is. And then I do make them return it to me, the 10-pound dumbbell weight plus this. So we're going to tape it to it. And I can tell you right now that this piece of tape is too short. But the biggest thing when you tape it is that you need to go wrap it around the pole and then go down. You can't do, the biggest mistake that I see that people do their taping and they go like this, and see how there's all of these gaps in between. You really have to like press it flush against it and then wrap and press it flush again and then put it on. And it's also going to pull off if it's like that. So you want to H tape it. And if it's a super windy day, anyone besides me live in a windy area?
I think RC does.
So RC, wait, you want to do then sometimes
Sorry, I
is
missed
like,
that. I just heard my name.
That you also live in a
you-
windy area.
Oh, yes, super windy.
so
Up to
if
30
it's,
miles sometimes.
yeah. So what I do if it's super windy is I then go and I actually do it as a box tape so that I cover the top and the bottom.
I do it exactly the same way, so I get why you're doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But everyone else could get away with an H tape. We're just going to need a box tape. The other thing that I do, RC, is I will take my, instead of doing this with light fishing line, I actually use 100 test fishing line, or at least 60. And I go
Okay.
through these hinge tabs and I go through top here, 1, 2, 3, 4 to go across the top. And when I do that, I also put it around the pole just as like an extra way to secure it so that it's not going to come forward. And then I do a piece of line across the top of my numbers too. So that way, if the tape comes loose, they're not going to go back and forth like that.
Oh, that's really
So,
smart. Yeah.
yeah, because that'll rip it. Because otherwise, like for regular people, all that we're going to do is just tape it once on the bottom, once here, and then once here. And again, this one's lined up, so it will just do one right here. But if you have this piece, like the fishing line going across the hang tabs on the top, then what you're not going to get is this motion, because the more motion you get, the more likely it is to rip apart. So, and that's going to kind of keep it where it needs to be a little bit better. But just honestly, it's just like taping it that way to it in as many security places as you can is what's going to make it look good for you. I don't need to tape any more of it, right? Because you guys know what we're doing. And this is why we also charge more if it's going outdoors than if it's going indoors. Because my goodness, it's stupid how much extra work you have to do outdoors. We had a setup last week where we did have 25 to 30 mile an hour sustained winds and 50 mile an hour wind gusts. And we were doing a double stacked marquee with a balloon wall behind it. And I luckily was able to, I like called in another balloon professional who lived near me. I actually saw her earlier that day driving past me. And I was like, hey, so we were kind of chatting a little bit. And then so she sent me a message. She's like, I'm done for the day. How are you doing? I'm like, I'm about to have a panic attack because I have to do this delivery outdoors. And I don't know, it's going to be such a nightmare. And she wasn't doing anything. And so I paid her to come out and help me for 2 hours. And I'm telling you, it took 3 of us holding the wall like this. We literally had a couple times where we got blown off of it because it was just so incredibly windy. So make good relationships with your neighboring balloon artist. Everyone could see this, right?
Yeah.
I'm always like saying relationships. Let me tell you, there is a reason why my relationships have saved my butt so many times. Okay, so I'm not going to use another class of 2025 one just because I felt like that's redundant since we have a 2025. So I'm just going to do a congrats, Brad.
Now, obviously, this structure is extremely secure for really any conditions. So if this
Yeah.
were air-filled, you didn't have the dowel and you didn't have the poles, balancing this can feel a little tricky. So do you have a method for like, obviously you want it in like designed to be fairly, symmetrical, not too like leaning one way or the other anyway. But do you have any kind of like design tips?
I'm just going to pull these off because I'm going to show these and it's just going to show better without having that through the back because it's more difficult if I have that, like it works, but what I do is I cover that as much as possible with the design.
Mhm.
Let's face it, most people aren't going to need to be doing that. They're going to be working from this, right?
Right.
So what I'm going to do now is I use little quads in between. That's how I end up weighting and structuring everything. And I also use them to hold. Right there. Yeah, lots of funky stuff going on. But once you go around, even if you're just air filled, this is going to give you a lot more support. In addition to, starting to add the cuter elements, like I'll get in there. And then the other things that we do, I know that everybody, I don't know, everybody, that's pretty broad, isn't it? A lot of people think that adding like the 260s and everything is just, it makes it cute, but what it really does is it, again, gives it that extra support in between. Oh, it's funky. I'm also going to be taking and adding 260s there, but let's get this straight first. Again, I'm going to go round, twist, and then I like to use the 260 and again, figure 8 it because that's, so now it's going to be held a little bit straighter. And if I need to have some more to straighten it. I just look at where it is because every design is going to be a tiny bit different. And then I would take this one, just go. Like, so you can see how we're securing it. And so if you're all air filled, then that's really going to help keep those in place. Could you see where it is, or are we out of frame?
Yeah.
So then we would do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to do it super quick. This is more my pace of regular working. So like we move pretty quick. I also always joke that I use exactly how much time I have. That if I have like 2 hours to do something, it takes me 2 hours. If I have 45 minutes, I could get the same thing done in 45 minutes most of the time.
Totally.
Because what I'll do is I'll just sit there and fuss with like one balloon for, half an hour. I'll be like, oh, maybe I like this turned this way. Things that don't really matter.
In the UK, I see it a lot where they'll do the like the 260, but they twist it into bubbles and they put it around the shape of the number. That looks
That's really cute. I would not do that outside. I don't like to do any sort of bubble outdoors, but we do them indoors all the time just because they go down a lot faster in the heat. So they're more likely to pop.
okay.
Yeah, that's really cute though. You
Yeah, I
do them
love
in
the look of
centerpieces
it.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but if it,
I love the look of it.
yeah, if it were to pop, which I would probably pop them all, then it's like peeling it off, right?
Yeah, so it looks cute. Like that's a really cute design element. Let me. Sorry. Not as prepared as I thought I was. Okay. I like the Calisand modeling balloons because they're really tough. Like
Good to know.
I always burp it so that I leave like a good amount so it doesn't hurt my fingers when I tie it. And then stretch it. When you stretch it, it just softens it too.
Okay.
So this is again going to give it the little bit of extra security. When I do the bubble ones, I normally put them in between. Sometimes could get a 160, but not on. Oh, cry.
See, all this work you're doing, this is a lot of work. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And this is why I will always say I'd rather do a 3-hour setup than set 3 hours to do one of these.
Totally.
I don't, yeah, depending, like we do them more on New Year's, but we'll get the base of it pre-built that time of year and then just have to do the details coming into it because like this extra detail work, I don't like to do more than a day or two ahead of time just because it does go down faster. I already secured it to my one in the back.
I'm
I
always
leave
scared
about,
to do them like a day before or something. I'm always scared.
Yeah, so especially again, these little bubbles, like that's something that you could only do 24 hours in advance. It's not going to stay.
We
That
do
or
those.
I have the issue of like the twisted, the twisty 260s. If I do them like
Mhm.
2 days in advance, they will not
Have you ever tried to high float them?
hot glue them.
High float?
Oh, you know what? I never thought like until recently. I'm like, everybody uses them on air too. I
Yeah.
just, had never thought of that.
There is like a high float 260 extender that you
Right.
can use. And it
So,
does, then you can get about a week out.
oh, okay.
We
Okay.
do
So,
those a bit for birthdays and stuff, and names. But we do try to keep it simple and basic, like so that way it could just be repeated and done.
mhm.
Not too much custom, not too much like on top. I mean, you want your name added, we'll do add vinyl on it, starburst, little clusters, and we call and a foil,
Mhm.
theme foil, and to help keep things together. No two levels, just one, and call it a day. Because you're right, they can take time to be building. So, and we needed to make sure that it fits in the van. I mean,
Yes,
so,
that's a
Yeah.
big one, Claudia.
mm, pardon me?
I said that's a big one, like to try to fit it.
Yeah.
One of the very first ones I ever did, I cried because I literally was like 2 inches too wide. And I had to get my husband to put it inside his truck bed, and we put like a net over it, and we drove like 10 miles per hour. It was awful. Lesson
Oh my
learned.
goodness. Like if you haven't cried over balloons, you're not a professional yet. I don't care how long you've been in business. If you haven't cried, we all cry, right? At some point.
Yes, a few times.
There's usually stuff like this.
I know. It's
I'm still not
you
brave
want to
enough to
show,
do double level.
yeah, it's not, the schools like them too. So we have done them for some schools.
I do love how you use the stands, Alyssa. Like I think
Yeah.
I obviously use them for, columns and stuff, but I never actually thought to just put them in one of these.
And again, only if it's outdoors. And I'll sometimes I'll do a bubble twist and finish it off on the back side, but I'm not going to for the class just because again, time. Okay. Because same thing is that's what we like to add for, is then you could add either, like your class of 2025, or I did cut some vinyl, but I didn't have a chance to weed it yet. So, we'll add the little grad caps, we'll add the little diplomas, we'll add their name, we'll add the school name, just all of those little custom details that they like to have. So, because that looks really cute for it. So we would do that top and bottom.
Yeah.
And then add these, add a little grad cap. And then I would also I have a diploma too that I,
You gotta
and I
charge more
just
than
do,
250 for this. This is a lot of work.
but we add, how much do you guys add per customization? Because we usually add an additional $35 just for small customization details, and 80 and up to 85 if they want a lot of customization, depending how big it is. So this would be in the customization part for adding more.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pretend like I lined that up, even though I didn't. And then I'm going to be adding, you have the bread cap. I would probably add this one onto the bottom. I like to do the tapers for my starburst. Do it up here. Did you see that?
Yep.
Since it's off to that side, what I would be doing is adding to here to this side. I actually don't like that there because I feel like it's too much gold all next to each other. I don't know. I'm just a weirdo. So probably would have been better if I would have used a white starburst instead of doing a gold starburst for it. Okay, so I'm rolling my valve. So I think that that looks cute nestled there, but I feel like I do need a little bit of height or something. Who else steps on their foot pedal all day? Is that just me? Now I like it better because I feel like it adds a little bit more depth. So I would probably put it down to 3 instead of having it be a full 6 for the starburst. I was selling that. Okay, so the other thing that I want to show that we like to do for grad is we do the little twisted grad caps. And I made part of one. For that, I'm using the same color 260. Has anyone ever made these, like the little twisted grad caps?
Never.
Okay, so I like to use the 350s. It's cute. I add these into garlands a lot. So this would be half of it. So you're going to do 8 bubbles. And I do my first one and I cross it 1 extra. Now I can't remember. Isn't it hilarious? It's like, put me on a camera and I forget what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm like, I don't know how I function. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Into the center. And then, so I bring the first one so that I have my 4 and then the one end sticks up. And then I fold this down so that way it could connect to it.
That was daring. Cutting it
Or
into
you
the
could do a little bubble. Yeah, it's okay. And then I leave my extra because then I use those as connection points. So I'm going to connect this one here. You can do it with the 260 if you don't have 350s. So that's the top of the mortar board. And you can also, we mostly do them in black, but and then we're going to do a 5 in, let some air out. We're going to do a raisin twist. Does everyone know how to do a raisin twist?
No.
You're going to take your end and just push it into the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Grab it and twist it. I forgot to do is this is going to be for our little tassel. I'm going to tie this one to the end. Get into the middle. This, get my shape. And I'm going to take a scrap. Tie that off. Now it's like this, where so that your attachment point is secured and hidden. And then for the rest of my tassel, here it was. I had it out. I'm going to, and this is just going to be like my little bit of tassel that hangs.
Okay.
And I did see someone make one of these recently, and I was like, oh, I had a light bulb moment because they used a little glue dot, whereas I had always to hold the tassel in place. So we had this, and then you'll put it down. And I'm going to use my dashes for this. My bottom. And give one there. And then it was right here, like mine is staying down, but I have had where they're staticky and where they like want to float up in the air like that. So if that's happening, then you could just put a little dash right here to hold it into spot. And then I do the same thing with a 12-inch. This is a different brand than my 350s. I realize that's a problem, but I'm in these black 350s here. I make it about this big. Someone's asking a question. Can't see it. Thing, push it through, twist it. Re-secure that since I lost part of it. And now I'm going to, since this is in the center and we don't have one in the center, I'm going to attach these two raise and twist together by tying them. So now it sits like a little mortarboard.
Yeah, cute.
Yeah, they're super cute. And then I feel like that would be cute, like on the top. Corner, like you could add it up here in the zero. You see that?
Yeah, scoot to the left a tad. There you go.
That would go like right up here and add
Mhm.
it there. I think that it would be really cute. So, and then it's just adding, you know, additional details if you want to have the additional details, if their budget allows. Did I see some questions coming through?
Yeah, let's see. So Ropo mentioned something called a nozzle up 260 that she says are best for pearls. She sent them in the chat and she found that Calisan and Sempertex have them.
So nozzle up is just how it's packed. So anything that's in a package like this
Okay.
is considered to be nozzle up, because what you could do is you could just grab them straight out. All the nozzles are up, whereas otherwise they're packaged in a package like this where you need to grab them. So that's the yeah,
Okay,
that's the
I've
difference,
never
is
heard
how
of
it's
that.
how you're getting it. Yeah, so because these are both 50 counts of balloons, but it is a little bit more expensive to get it in this packaging because all the nozzles do need to be up. But that's really good if you just want to like have it in a bin or have it in a kit, so that, especially if you're doing any sort of twisting, so that it's easier for you to grab them out. But it is the same thing as doing, it is the same product. It's just how it's packaged. That's the difference there. So that's a good point.
Okay.
So, and again, I would just use a glue dash to hold this one on. This is making me feel very short right now.
Does anybody else have other questions? I guess the other question I would have is just when you're adding these type of embellishments, if it's fully air filled, because now that I see the dowel method, I may consider that. And definitely using the water balloons within the bottom row. So that's going to help with balancing for sure, balancing some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So would the water balloons alone without the dowel work with adding that top embellishment? And I know this is double decker, so it might be kind of hard to say, but.
Oh, 100%. So I like to use the dowel rod. To me, that's a good investment for them, just because they're less likely to get twisted up when they're delivering, because whether they're picking it up, I mean, most of the time we deliver it, but that way we just have fewer issues with the bottom getting out of whack, and it's just going to be set when you get there. And, you know, I get them for like $1 to add it on for $1 instead of having to take 20 minutes to fix my design. To me, that's well worth it. Like, it's not even a question for me.
Alyssa, so do you mind about, like, I know obviously everybody's pricing is different, but for you, something like this, what would be, what would you sell this for?
So, okay, so for a normal 2-bottom base that is just without anything that's on the top, but where we have this in between, we have like just a couple, we have this here, and then we have a few just like, we usually do some triplets on the bottom, just add a little bit. For us, that's at 125 as a starting point. And then depending if you add on a second row, that's going to be adding more. We like charge per embellishment that we add. So is kind of how we get to our price. A lot of times I work backwards, to be honest. I mean, the ones that we did for New Year's, like the one that was shown in the photo as an example, that one was $250 for what we did. But we're able to put those together pretty quickly because none of them had any custom vinyl. It did have the fringe that was cut. It just was a really quick design. A lot of the ones that we do sell are more basic just because that's what's going to fit in people's budget. So we have very few people where they say, I have $500 that I could spend on this air-filled design. So it just isn't in our market, honestly.
Okay, thank you for that. I think
Yeah.
I start mines at 165 for the 2 numbers. Usually for
Yeah.
me, I get a lot of like 15th or 16th birthdays, for the huge things.
Yeah.
So same. I mean, I do make those little, cake, twisted cakes with the 2 balloons and little details like that. I'll throw in like one of like the bubble gum, bubbles, and just to make it fun. So I just wanted to make sure that, I stayed within a reasonable price range, you know, and not just charging because it's such time consuming.
Yeah, and again, it just depends. Like, how long is it going to take you when you're doing it? Because a lot of the ones that we send out are more single digit ones as well. Like, we do first birthday and second birthdays, but you'll notice if you look at our menu that they're really simplified. Like, this one I would consider even right now to be pretty simple because we don't have any of the additional organic clusters at the bottom. So, and for those, we do them more like a buffet column where we have the 3 rows. We're going to pretend like this is I'll be right back. Like, we just recently had a cute one that was like butterflies and flowers that I could put into the chat. That was a single. This one is old. It's been sitting here for a month that I'm about to pull out. But like, even something like this, like we're charging $85 for this. And it's just, 3 rows, but it's because of the custom vinyl. And then, the little split duplets that are between every single one. So an item like this for us is a better seller than an item like that. Like we will sell these, but we sell more of those, and it's because they're adding it on and they want to have more decor instead of having like this be their main item that they're doing. That makes sense?
Yeah, sorry. No, it does. Yeah, because I do get a lot. I call them number stackers, and it's just basically like 2, levels, maybe 3
Mhm.
sometimes with a one
Yeah.
for only one. And I start those at I think 55 and up, depending again, if they want a custom, like I just did one for like a strawberry shortcake first birthday thing. And
Mhm.
that one did have like a custom strawberry shortcake decal, and of course that one I did charge 65 for that.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds right.
I appreciate your input.
Yeah, and it's always different too because what every market bears is different as well. But there are some things like I don't do a lot of the mosaics just because I don't feel like we could get what we need to charge for a mosaic in this area. But it's crazy because so for me, if we'd be getting $250 for something like this, if you go an hour up north, they're getting $350 for something like this without a problem, just because the people who live there tend to make more money. So.
Yep. So we
What
are a
about
little
you,
on
Alexis?
your, what?
I said, what about you? Like, what would you charge? I know you're obviously very different area than I am, but again, I'm just trying to compare and like trying to update my pricing on my page. So I do want to stay competitive and obviously reasonable.
Yeah. I can send you a couple pictures of some of them that we've done. I don't think I'm particularly skilled at this, but we always add on like little greenery or like checkered flags or like things that are like another added like detail as an upsell. And then definitely the name like totally makes it. And some I'm like, these just don't, they just don't look that good. Like this one I thought looked terrible. I don't know how we got money for this. Like this was just like, what the heck, right? This is just like, ew. Let's see.
Just like, ew.
Just this one I thought came out cute. This one was kind of cute, right?
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that was cute with the colors and the greenery and all that. We charge anywhere from 175 to 225.
Okay.
So yeah. I don't know why people pay that for that. Like like this was one I did for my daughter, just trying to practice these things.
Oh yeah, cute.
And they come out cute, but like I wouldn't pay that much for that. I don't know.
So like that you did for your daughter, what would you
That
charge
was
for
just a single number. It would be closer to 150, I guess.
Okay.
This is a video, sorry.
It's okay.
But that
Oh,
came
cute.
out kind of cute. We had the lettering and all the stuff on it. That was like 225. And
That's really cute. I really like that.
So
With the
people,
footballs on the side like that.
yeah, people will pay for it. I try to do a push for back to school stuff. Like we did these like TK and kindergarten ones and stuff, and like it's the size of the kid, so it's kind of fun. We have gotten those for like 150. Like people are okay paying that, but people were not that excited to spend that money on when it wasn't like a birthday. So outside of like it being like a milestone birthday or like something instead of doing decor or something like in addition to like kind of fill out a room, like it's always been like a birthday. We've not really had any luck selling them otherwise. Like, people spend when it's a birthday. But other occasions, like not really.
Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And things can always go wrong with those. So it's just like it's more stress than it's worth, I feel like.
Yes. I thought
Yeah.
it was just me that I'm doing something wrong. But yeah,
Yeah.
I feel the same. This is why I get really stressed out when I have to make those double digit, big,
Yeah.
like because they're bigger than me. Honestly, I'm only 5'1". And when you make the design, my designs end up being like taller than me sometimes.
I hear you, short queen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when I meet people, I'm 5'7", so I'm kind of tall, and then I like to wear heels too, so people are always like, "Oh, like you're taller than I expected."
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't know that,
Yeah.
Alexis.
Yeah. Okay, so we are kind of getting oh, well, we're always go over, right? Don't we? Do you guys want to do a little bit of networking? You want to like chat real quick I have a breakout room ready to go. Alyssa, anything else you wanted to show to round out this workshop?
So not for this. I just really wanted to show how we secure it and put it on and how we weight it if somebody's doing outdoors, because I think that everyone already has their style for how they make these. But it's like, how do you get it so that it's not going to blow over? Because those are the things that are tricky.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna split out the rooms if we're ready to go. I have two rooms, so there's a group of 3 and a group of 4. And then I'm also gonna stop the recording because you
Okay.
should have some
And
privacy to
I,
chat about whatever you want.
yeah, and I am going to get going because I can't go over today. So that has